So we can just start off with Prince Zuko, because he kind of started off in the first episode like he's really motivated to get the Avatar. You know, he's kind of like out at sea, you know, with his uncle Lyro, and he's just like a very like one-note character. When you first saw him like in that very first episode, like what were your thoughts on him?
I didn't like him.
Yeah.
I thought he was really full of himself. I thought that he was also a little insecure because he's trying to please different people. So I felt that. So he wasn't my favorite character in the beginning at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I felt the same way about him at first. When I first saw him on the screen, he's like this very like intimidating, like scary looking guy, and like obviously he's like the villain of the show. And I really didn't really think much of him, especially in the first season. I really just thought he was just gonna just be like this guy who's like pursuing the Avatar, which was kind of like what the whole first season was, just him pursuing the Avatar and everything. But then by a couple episodes in, they introduced a character named Admiral Zhao, or as you call him, Admiral Monkey Sideburns.
He looks like a monkey.
Yeah, and he kind of acts like as a rival to Zuko, because you know after the first episode, Zuko like failed getting the Avatar, because you know Aang escaped the Fire Navy ship and everything, and the Fire Lord pretty much hires Admiral Zhao to come in and kind of take the reins from the whole mission of getting the Avatar. So you kind of feel bad for him, because you know like he's like his whole drive is to like get the Avatar, and then suddenly it's just like, nope, I'm gonna send this other guy like Admiral Zhao to come in and like, you know, take over. So
where you learn about his backstory. You learn about like his dad didn't really respect him, and so then you kind of feel for him. Then you feel guilty that you felt bad that you thought he was the worst character, and then so I think once they got more into his storyline, I feel like it was a little bit better once they dug below the surface.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Storm. That's episode 13 in the show. Kind of tells a whole backstory of Aang and Zuko. And they're like parallel stories, and you find out why Zuko was banished from the Fire Nation and how he got the scar, and like why his whole motivation to like actually find the Avatar and everything. That's actually one of my favorite episodes, and I think that's the episode that kind of like changed the way the whole series like went. So you just think it's going to be this fun kid show, Aang's going from like nation to nation and just trying to like learn the elements, learn waterbending and everything. Like Zuko's like in every episode just pursuing him, but then like you really feel like bad for these characters, and you like know their whole backstory and stuff, Zuko's and Aang's backstory. But yeah, speaking of backstory, maybe we can like talk about backstory a little bit. I guess starting off with Aang finding out that he's the next Avatar in the cycle, because in the lore of Avatar, you're really only supposed to find out that you're Avatar when you're like 16. But the monks, especially Monk Yatso, told Aang when he was 12, just because he really loved Aang and he thought like he'd be able to handle it. But clearly like the other monks were like, no, he's not ready, he needs more training, and like Aang also felt the same way, so he just like decided to just leave the air nomads, and then he got caught in the storm, and then fell into the ocean, went to the Avatar state, frozen the iceberg. So yeah, what do you think of Aang's whole decision to like leave the air nomads and just not pursue his whole journey of being the Avatar and kind of growing into that identity?
I think obviously there's some sort of like insecurity or scared, like you're feeling that because basically all the weight of the world is on you. So I think to avoid it is what humans normally do. You try to avoid as much conflict as possible. So he just needed to find that inner strength, and I think he did find that. I don't know if it was a good decision or a bad decision, but if I say good, he's kind of learning more about himself and finding his inner strength in order to do a better job. So if he were to just go into it and be like, I'm the Avatar, I'm gonna go crush everybody, he may have the physical strength, but he may not have the mental strength. So I think he had to find the mental strength first in order to get the physical strength.
Yeah, because there's actually like articles of like, what if Aang like never ran away, like what would happen? And they actually kind of reveal that a little bit in season 3. There's an episode called The Avatar and the Fire Lord, where it talks about Avatar Roku, the Avatar before Aang, and then Fire Lord Sozin, the great-great-grandfather of Zuko. And it talks about that whole backstory of them being friends, then becoming enemies, and then Sozin wanting to try to find like a way to gain power. So once he gets Roku out of the way, he decides to wipe out all the air nomads in order to kind of break the Avatar cycle. And I think if Aang stayed with the air nomads, he would have just been wiped out with the other air nomads. And then even Katara kind of says that in the second episode, where they go to one of the air temples and they see like all the airbenders are like wiped out. They see like the skeleton of Monk Yatso, and Aang really realizes like, yeah, maybe, being in that iceberg for 100 years and, letting kind of like the war rage on, even though it was like a terrible choice of me kind of just abandoning everything, maybe this is the time that I kind of need to rise up, rise to the challenge and become the Avatar. So yeah, I guess we can kind of go into the next topic of Katara and Sokka finding Aang in the iceberg and telling him about the 100-Year War and that he needs to be the Avatar. Like, what are your thoughts on them?
Well, I love Katara. I'm always for a strong female, along with strong males, but I love that she's stubborn and that she does everything she can out of love for people. I really feel like she's doing it out of her heart, and she's caring, and she gets frustrated with people. She helps people all because she cares. So I like her, and that she becomes stronger throughout the seasons, and I love that she gets more confident. Because I remember at the very beginning, she's really hesitant to use her water bending, and then at the very end, she's just going at it, and it's crazy. So I think she also had a mental transformation along with a physical one. And I think Sokka, I think one big thing he was there for was comedic relief, because if you don't have this comedic character, I mean, how can you not love Sokka? He's kind of that one where he's gonna say something at the right moment, and it's funny and it works, or the facial expressions that they gave him, like he's just the best. And I think he also grew into himself too. Like he became someone, like he started with his boomerang, and then he ended up with the sword. He ended up with his sword, and I just think that shows also his mental transformation and his physical transformation. So all these characters went through that cycle of finding it, and that's how they're able to come together.
Yeah, I think one of the main themes of Avatar is like coming together in like community. Like it's like a small band of heroes getting together and taking on the world, going into this war and not really knowing what they should be doing, what they can be doing. I think season 1 especially is like the arc that the main 3 characters go on, from like starting off in like the southern water tribe and then going up to the northern water tribe, and like all the changes that they make. And like the entire first season, they're kind of just going from place to place and seeing like the way that the war has kind of damaged all these different nations and different tribes, and like just them going out of like their little bubble and seeing like the whole world ahead of them and everything. And I think like one big arc is like when they finally get to the North Pole, and Katara is kind of in conflict with Paku, who's like the waterbending master that they're supposed to train with, and the whole like girl power thing in their tribe. Like they don't teach women waterbending. They only use their waterbending for healing instead of like actual combat. So what are your thoughts on that, of Katara's arc from going from like kind of like this meek girl who kind of knows her waterbending but kind of messes up, to kind of being this full-blown master and taking on the master Paku in the end of season 1?
Well, I think also it has to do with current times. I think this show is really relevant for right now. You know, we're fighting for equal rights, women's rights, all this stuff. So I feel like she also felt, okay, what about me? Like, why she's timid because she's taught to be timid. So I think it's with anybody or anything, even, you know, how you train animals. Like, it's how you train them, it's how you bring them up. So if you bring them up to be like, women do this, this, and this, and that's it, then they're going to believe that. But I think she wanted to break the mold, and she wanted to do something different and show, I can do more than just heal, which is great. We need those people too. We need the healing, and we need the nurturing. But then again, she wanted to prove, she's like, no, I can be a fighter too. Like, I'm just as good as anybody else. I can just do it a different way. And I think if people look at that and go, oh, okay, like I have these skills, how can I bring these skills to the table where someone might be lacking them? They can balance each other out. And so I think that she shows that who cares if you're a female or male? You're only as strong as you think you are. So if you think that you're weak, you are going to perform weak. And if you think that you're strong and believe you're strong, then you will probably perform stronger. And I know the saying is, if you're failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. So already if you think, I can't do it, I'm not going to be able to do this, okay, well then you're telling yourself that you're most likely not going to be able to do it to the best of your ability. But if you're like, no, I may not be able to do this yet, but I will, that's the strongest mentality. So I think that's what she was at. She was like, I can't do it right now, but I'm going to get better. And the fact that she pushed the guy to teach her and like do everything, like she kind of forces people to get what she wants, which, I mean, not always the best thing to do, but it shows her dominance, and she's trying to create a pathway for herself. So
definitely.
That's how I feel about her.
Yeah, Avatar is definitely filled with a lot of like strong female characters for sure. Like pretty much like for every strong male character, there's like an equally strong like female character next to them, which is great. Why like pretty much half the fan base of Avatar is like women and everything. It's like one of those few fandoms where like there's equal parts male and female fans, which is really good.